Georgia Saturday night, obviously. Really good football team. You look at their season and their two losses. They went to Oxford and played a really good Ole Miss football team. Ole Miss is a team that probably, if they don't turn the ball over, they're undefeated right now. But as explosive as anybody offensively, Ole Miss right now, and certainly played extremely well that day in Oxford. And then everybody saw the ending of the game, last week at Georgia. So they played extremely well against a very good Tennessee football team and had every opportunity in the world to win the game. And so we got our work cut out for us. Offensively, Jim Chaney's our offensive coordinator guy I've got a lot of respect for. Extremely talented with playmakers. Nick Chubb, we're expecting to be full speed and one of the best backs in college football. Runs through contact, low center of gravity. He's got really good acceleration, catches the ball well. He does a great job in protection. He's an all-around good football player and a great person. I had the pleasure of recruiting him and really enjoyed getting to know Nick. Sony Michel, same thing. Explosive playmaker for them. He's got great top-end speed. Isaiah McKenzie's a guy that's really special with the ball in his hand, and they've been very creative in how they've gotten the ball in his hand. Reggie Davis is a top-end speed guy. Is probably as fast a receiver as in our league, and Terry Godwin's another guy really talented at the tight end position. They're young, but Jay Blezevich and Isaac Nada and those guys are really talented. And, of course, they've gone with Jacob Eason, their quarterback, who's got, big-time arm talent, can make all the throws. And they certainly have, the vertical passing game is alive for those guys with his arm strength and what he's been able to do. Defensively, Mel Tucker's their defensive coordinator, and obviously Kirby's very involved, but they're big and athletic. They're young up front, run extremely well. Linebacker Natrez Patrick and Roquan Smith, Reggie Carter are three guys that make a lot of plays for him, and Dominic Sanders is as good a safety as there is in our league. So, really athletic defensively. Special teams, Isaiah McKenzie's an issue in the return game for us. He's really electric as far as when the ball is in his hands, and they do a great job trying to create some things for him. So ought to be a great game Saturday night. Obviously, Kirby and I are good friends and got a lot of respect for him and as a coach and as a person, and looking forward to playing Georgia. So I'll open it up for any questions.
Microphone to you if you raise your hand, David.
Will, has Coach Tanner come to you and talked about potential weather issues on Saturday? Have you guys had any discussions about maybe having to move the game?
No, there are administrations handling all of that through the SEC office, and all of my energy is game planning for the game. Whatever happens, happens. I'm not the least bit worried about it.
Have you guys made your decision on quarterbacks yet and communicated that to them?
Not totally. We're still working through some things. We've got a good idea where we're headed with it.
And on the other side, when you face a freshman quarterback, does that affect how you game plan going into a game?
Well, I think that you evaluate the film and then you make decisions as a coach and what are they letting him do. Is he doing much at the line of scrimmage as far as going from run to run, run to pass, pass to run? Protection-wise, what are they doing? I think, Josh, I think it's all different. It's not just that he's a freshman quarterback. It's what are they I think everybody has their leash as far as how much they're letting someone do. I think that they're letting him do a lot, in my opinion, and they've got a lot of looks, a lot of personnel packages, a lot of different things that they're doing offensively. So with that being said, I think that they're really throwing a lot at him.
Will, as young assistants, did you and Kirby ever have conversations about what you would do if and when you were head coaches?
No, we're just worried about stopping somebody. We worked together on the defensive side of the ball. We never had any discussion about that. We're just trying to get off the field on third down.
Back to Kirby. You and he both coach his kids. Do you feel like that contributed to your friendship, that you were sort of kindred spirits in that way in any?
I would think so. I mean, his father and my dad, we were together 1 year at Georgia, sat together at games, and Mike Bobo's dad as well. So I think that obviously a lot of the, similar paths, so to speak. But again, I think that was just, just a small part of it as much as anything.
first two home games started out really quick with some quick scores. What do you think would be the key to staying consistent there right off the bat to continue the offense, kind of ride the energy of the home crowd?
Well, there's no doubt we like to get out as quick as we can, but we need to finish well as well too, and we didn't do that the other night. So, getting out to a good start's great, but really, I want our team to play a complete game, offense, defense, and special teams, and do it for 60 minutes. Continue to improve where we are as a football team and program, and that's what we're looking forward to.
Stay in the back, Mike.
Well, you touched on this a little bit on Saturday night, but what's this locker room like right now? How do you get them focused on Georgia?
Very good. You don't need to get them focused. Our guys are excited about Georgia. Got a lot of respect for Georgia. But we had a really good up-tempo practice today, guys bouncing around. It was a very, very good practice.
Well, how has your offensive line progressed, would you say, this season? And which guy on the offensive line has graded out and been overall the most consistent this
Zach
year?
Bailey's been our best lineman through 5 games right now. But I do think that we made, that was the best front seven we've seen this year in Texas A&M. And I thought we blocked them well at times. I mean, in our league, when you face dominating lines, it's hard to sustain as much as you would like. But I thought we did a nice job against Texas A&M. So I think we've made some progress. Has it always been perfect? Has it been exactly what we've wanted all the time? No. But I certainly think that we've improved, and getting Blake Camper back and getting Donnell Stanley back after the open week certainly going to help us. So pleased with Malik Young's effort. I thought that, we got to clean up some things technique-wise and a couple assignments. But from an effort standpoint, Malik, plays with tremendous effort, and that's exciting.
Will Dowdle showed some really good things last Saturday. Is it possible that you could play 3 running backs again, and how easy is it to coordinate playing 3 tailbacks?
Well, again, we talk about touches going into every game and in certain situations that we want to get those guys those looks, but we feel good about 3 quality backs that we have. And all 3 will play Saturday. Obviously, depending how many snaps we have, all of those things will dictate through the game and how it goes. You always have a plan going in, then always how it happens when you get into the game situation.
Go right in front. Pete.
Well, how close do you feel, or do you feel this offense is getting closer to where you want it to be, to where it can put up points consistently?
Again, I think we've made improvement, and as we move forward, I think obviously starting with Texas A&M moving forward, the defenses we're playing are going to be better. So we've got to continue to make strides. I think today at practice, having Debo Samuel and Brian Edwards back at practice, we're better coaches. It's amazing how that works. So that's good to see, and that's exciting to see, and our players feel that too, and it gives us some other options within the offense of things we need to do. And so I think we're improving. Certainly not where we were, thank goodness, but not where we need to be.
Okay, Mike.
You had mentioned earlier that you were thinking about, if possible, redshirting Nunez this year. Given the injuries and maybe looking for more playmakers on offense, is that still the plan, or are you considering maybe playing him?
No, right now I think it's the best thing for him to have a year, in the weight room, coming off the knee injury, missing really all of spring and summer as far as lifting and running, and it was a little bit more serious than we maybe had thought originally. And right now he's changing his body in the weight room. He's working with us on the offense as far as his route running and those things are concerned. And I think he's made tremendous improvements, and he will continue to improve. And the best thing for him right now is to be redshirted. He wants that, and we want that as well.
Just after looking over the film, how did Chaz Elder kind of grade out coming back from that injury?
Chaz played probably 30-something snaps. I don't know right off the top of my head, but I thought he was solid. He had a pretty serious injury on the ribs there, and he'll continue to improve. And we need him to play better, and he'll be the first one that would tell you that. But it was good to get him back on the field. He's a very good communicator. He really handles motion and formation adjustments and things very well for us.
Well, what goes into what you decide to do with end of first half situations when you get the ball in your end with less than a minute left, as far as when to try to score or when to take a knee?
Well, I think that number one, how has the first half progressed? What are you doing well? Number two, field position. If you're at midfield, if you're at the 30, you're 30. plus more, you feel good about how you've played in the first half. You'd like to try and go get some points, obviously depending on time. When you're at, I think it was 38 seconds the other night. We were on our 20, I believe. I don't think at the time for us going in 7.5 we were in a good spot, and we didn't need to do anything at that point, in my opinion, to put their offense. It's a very explosive offense back on the field, which I also think that figures into it as well. So there was a lot of things that you figure in, but to speaking for the other night, their offense, their explosiveness on offense, to be able to have Reynolds and some of the length that they have at the receiver position of putting them back on the field. We had not thrown it extremely well in the first half, and that's what we were going to need to do in order to get that, because we had no timeouts, and I think it was either 38 or 42 seconds. We were on about our 20-yard line, and I didn't want to put us in that situation of making a mistake and giving up a score before half, because I really felt like we had good momentum going into halftime. So to answer your question as far as just generally, I think a lot depends on how the first half is going. I think a lot depends on field position, and if you get to that plus, that minus 30 area where you feel good about that, how well are you throwing the ball with no timeouts, and how well are you managing the game offensively? How good is the other offense? Are you willing to put them back on the field again, play on a short field, and hold them to a field goal? So I think all of those things are, things that go through my mind when we're in those situations.
Well, I wanted to ask you about the 1993 Georgia-South Carolina game in Athens. I believe you were a senior that season.
One of the hottest days ever.
Right.
I was a junior.
Oh, a junior, okay.
Yeah.
Do you remember the final play of that game?
Brandon Bennett went over the top.
Right.
I do.
Were you on the field for that play?
I was not on the field on that play. We were in a goal line package. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so while on the sideline, just what were your reactions to that play, and what do you think about that game all these years later?
I got to be careful here, don't I? No, it was I remember it was one of the hottest days on a field that I've ever been a part of. Eric Zier played really well. He was my roommate in college for Georgia there, and Brandon Bennett was outstanding that day. He and I, matter of fact, he came this summer and brought his sons down, and we visited about that game a good bit. But it was a great win for South Carolina at the time, and certainly not a good day for us, for the guys between the hedges that day, for those guys.
When you were at Florida, was Hayden Hurst ever on your recruiting radar? Was he a football recruit that you know of?
I don't recall the name, thank goodness. So I'm glad he's here. He signed baseball at Florida State when he went to Bowles High School, and was a very good friend. Gary Condren I think the Florida Indoor is named after Gary Condren, and he is a very good friend of their families. And when baseball didn't work out for Hayden, he was looking for some different options. And his father talked with Gary and just kind of wanted to explore some different things, looked at Florida State, I'm assuming, and baseball was paying for his school at the time. And fortunately, there was an opportunity to come here because obviously Gary had a really good relationship with Jamie Spronis and Coach Spurrier, and that's where the connection was made. And we're able to have him come in here as a walk-on, and thank goodness he's a heck of a football player.
So he was a guy you were aware of before you got here. He was not necessarily a surprise to you.
Well, I mean, in watching the film, you see his athleticism. You don't really get a feel for how big and strong the guy is, and what he can do for you in the position we're playing, which is really perfect for what his skill set is. But he's, and again, he's just going to keep better. I mean, getting better because he hasn't played a lot of football, and that's going to. I mean, he's just continuing to rise.
Tebow and Brian, they've been full go this week so far?
Yeah, they were good. Great. Looked great today.
And was there ever a point early in your coaching career where it was strange or awkward for you to go up against Georgia?
Not really. I mean, I think probably maybe the first time I GA'd against them when I was at Auburn in 1995 and 1996. So it's just kind of, it is what it is.
Do you remember that game? Was that
1995. We beat them over there, and then 96 was the overtime game, about 4 overtimes at Auburn. Yep.
Coach, what is your philosophy on defending the Hail Mary pass? How often do you work on it?
When it works.
And do you defend it the same way every time?
It's one of those calls when you called it and they didn't convert it. It was a great call. And when you called it and it didn't work, then you should have done this. So, philosophically, I think that, we talk in terms of from the 30-yard line outside the end zone, and in a situation of, I think it depends on who the quarterback is, what are your matchups outside, meaning who the quarterback is how well does he throw the ball, how accurate is he throwing the ball in a tight area, and then what are your matchups. If you've got smaller corners against bigger receivers, it makes it a little bit more difficult sometimes to get in those jump ball situations. So you can say we're going to rush 3 and drop 8. We're going to have a body on a body, and then we're going to have a 3 or 4 deep on top of it to knock the ball down. And we do that as well. And he and I come from the same school. So that's one thought. The other thought is to bring a 5-man pressure and then play some form. You can say it's middle field or man or zone. At the end of the day, it's a one-on-one situation in the end zone. So then that goes back to what are your matchups? And if you've got a 5'8" corner versus 6'4" receiver, it's not a really good matchup for you, right? So that's a difficult matchup. You say, well, you get a 5-man pressure. Well, they're going to be in a 6-man protection. They're going to have 5 offensive linemen, and they're going to leave the back end, which they did. So they had a 6-man protection. They get a hat on a hat, and then the quarterback buys a little bit of time, and now you're in a true one-on-one situation for a jump ball.
Would you change personnel if you knew the Hail Mary's coming?
Well, we only got 3 corners. I don't know who you want to put out there. But we do put a jumper in the game to put a bigger body in the game that can knock the ball down in that situation, in which Georgia did on that play. So, or you can max them and bring a +1 pressure and try and force the quarterback to make a throw under duress. And then you get same thing, though. You're going to get in a one-on-one situation. It's going to be a jump ball situation, no different than the jump ball situation that they got into. So at the bottom line, be technical about what happened and where somebody else should have been, a body on a body, and try and get the ball on the ground as best you can. But philosophically, we have those discussions all the time. We'll have them again tonight when we start talking in terms of 3rd down in 1 minute about what does this team do in 1 minute and what do we need to do in 1 minute to win the game in those situations, because all those situations are played out before we ever get there and what are the decisions that we're going to make. So you either can drop 8 and man them up and have zone eyes across the top. You can play middle field man and try and play man-to-man, but it's going to be a one-on-one. You got to hope you can win your one-on-one, or you can max them and you're still going to be in a one-on-one. So that's your options. And you'd like the sub to get a bigger body to get the ball on the ground if you can. And you got to work on those, all the timing of the deep ball always travels further than you think. And then you deal with the tip ball. You've always got a spectator that wants to watch it, doesn't box his guy out, and he gets the tip ball. So you go through all these situations in a one play where you've played well enough to win the game, and then suddenly something like that happens and you lose it. So it's a sick feeling.
John?
Well, Hayden, with his baseball background, he said fielding punts is kind of like fielding a fly ball.
Right.
How has he done with that, and how is that competition?
He did
in the
very
past
well
few days?
today, and we haven't made a full decision on who will be back, but certainly Keel Pollard's got really good ball skills, and he's been back catching. Hayden's been back catching. Ball possession is the most important thing. If we have ball possession the other day, we're going to tie the game. So that's the most important thing for us right now. It's been too much of an issue, and we're not gaining enough anyways on punt return when we clip guys. So just get ball possession.
Over in front, Ben.
Last week you kind of mentioned that Texas A&M's defense took maybe a full year to take on Coach Chavis's personality. Is this Georgia defense still very much a work in progress in taking on Coach Smart's personality? I mean, I don't think you judge anybody until the year's over with about where they are. I know that they've played a very good Tennessee team right there before half. It's a 17-0 ball game right before half. So obviously they played a very quality offensive football team very well.
Way in the back.
Coach, with McElwain being a young guy, I mean, how simple was the playbook maybe when the first couple of weeks, and how much has it kind of expanded the last couple of weeks? I'm just curious when it comes to passing. I mean, will we see him, try to go down the field a little bit more? Because it seems like it's, just an extension of the run game right now going short.
Well, I think that we had the playbook was very open for what we were doing that fit Brandon's skill set. Obviously, does that change a little bit with Perry? Sure, it changes a little bit. There's, as far as some things. So we'll have some things dialed up when Brandon's in the game that fit him a little better than maybe what Perry does differently a little bit better. But against East Carolina, Brandon threw the deep ball very well. Randricus Davis about a 40-yard gain, Brian Edwards about a 40-yard gain on the other sideline. Two very well thrown deep balls. We had some things dialed up in Lexington. We didn't hit any of them, and we lacked explosive plays. And we had a couple situations the other night. We didn't get shots down the field. We didn't get two of them off. We got one of them off, and he had to get rid of it out of bounds. So we did take some shots vertically. We didn't hit on them. So, and certainly Perry did a really good job when he came in the game.
Well, when you look at your defensive numbers right now, they're really impressive. Of course, you're keeping every team below their season average, scoring total averages. I'm wondering how frustrating it is for you, though, now moving forward that you've done that you only have 2 wins so far.
Well, it's a team game. So obviously defensively, we had some opportunities to make some interceptions the other night. We had opportunities to make some stops. They opened the game with a touchdown drive. They opened the second half with a touchdown drive that creates momentum for the other team. So at the end of the day, we got 200 yards rush for us against Kentucky. We haven't played that well defensively in my opinion, and we need to play better, and we need to do more to help our football team win games.
You've got about a dozen or so true freshmen who haven't played yet. Do you have pretty much in your mind that those guys are going to redshirt at this point, or any of those players kind of pushing to get into games?
Right now, Aaron Thompson still's repping a good bit. He's been out a little bit with an injury, but nothing serious. Sedarius Hutchinson's a guy that we continue to try and get reps with. Corey Banks played Saturday in an A&M game. All of our receivers have played. We'd like to redshirt both of the tight ends. Evan Henson and Robert Tucker are going to be really good players. Right now, I don't foresee the other offensive lineman playing. Stephon Taylor's, is going to redshirt. He just needs to build strength in his shoulder. Griffin Gentry will redshirt. And the other guys were kind of still up in the air. But right now, that's kind of where we are. He is not. Again, we're still just kind of working through that. Mm-hmm. Yep.
With Charleston having moved back to wide receiver, and if you get some of these other wide receivers back, is he going back to defensive back, or is he staying over with the offense?
Right now, we're going to stay at the offense. We've gotten enough flexibility. Steven Montack can play safety, can play corner, can play nickel or dime inside positions. DJ Smith could be an emergency, fifth corner if we had to play another guy at corner. So we've gotten right now, by cross-training guys, enough flexibility with different guys at different spots. So I think we'll be okay unless we, get it to lose somebody else. We might have to move him back.
What sort of reputation does Jim Chaney have kind of within the coaching profession?
He's kind of funny. He's got a good sense of humor. What do you mean?
Just in terms of kind of the style he plays and the style he coaches.
Well, his style has been across the board. He was with Drew Brees at Purdue, and they were as spread can be. As far as getting 5 out and empty and all the different things that he did at Purdue, and did a fantastic job. He served some time in the NFL. He was at Tennessee with Derek Dooley. He was at Arkansas, so it was traditional 2-back, ground and pound. Was at Pittsburgh last year, very similar. And but he's got enough fast background offensively to fit what his players can do. I think he's a very good play caller. I think he stays balanced with what they do. And anytime someone's balanced in what they do, it creates some issues for you.
I know some coaches would prefer not to play against friends personally. What about you?
Well, again, it is what it is, and he's a good friend of mine. But it's at the end of the day, it's South Carolina and Georgia, and it ought to be a great environment here. I know our fans will be ready to go regardless of what the weather is. They'll be excited.
Any other questions for Coach? Now we got lunch.
All right.